It's a disease hiding in plain sight, a neurological condition rising faster than any other, affecting more than 1 million people in the U.S. alone.
But you can't always see it, even when it's right in front of you, because for many, as Peter Rosen explains, it's a secret.
Sometimes in the Salt Lake neighborhood, you see someone, for no apparent reason, walking backwards. But there is a reason, the same reason Chiara Delmonico
The cognitive
has a hard time
changes
finding her words.
are really embarrassing for me.
A degenerative neurological disorder called Parkinson's disease, PD, which causes levels of the neurotransmitter dopamine to decline.
I was an athlete since I was 12, so moving my body is really important to me. It's like breathing.
Delmonico, a runner and a climber, couldn't move, couldn't think as fast.
Did you tell anybody?
I didn't for a while. I mean, I told my sisters, and I told a very close group of friends.
Neurologist Kathleen McKee says
The number of patients with Parkinson's is rising exponentially.
many people misunderstand PD, think it's only about tremors, instead of a constellation of symptoms.
Changes in mood, trouble sleeping, almost every organ system in the body can to some degree be affected.
And so she says it's not uncommon for patients to hide the diagnosis for years.
Most of us have no idea how many people we pass walking on the street who have Parkinson's but don't have those prominent classic motor manifestations.
According to a survey in the UK, more than a third of patients hide the disease.
That was just an absolute devastating blow.
Retired British sportscaster Dave Clark was part of that statistic.
Made even worse by the fact the only person I met before that had Parkinson's was my dad.
Clark's father, Alan, kept his diagnosis secret even from his kids.
The stigma of it was weighing heavy on him, I think.
At home, Alan Clark ate dinner by himself so no one could see his handshake. Because of slurred speech, he was accused at work of being drunk.
He ended up losing his job. He lost all his dignity. He lost his will to live.
And when Dave Clark was 17, his father died by suicide.
When I was diagnosed, I thought, I can't be like my dad, I've got to change. I've got to be different.
So he
I was on air a couple of times and my hand would sort of cramp up.
went public.
I kept it a secret for so long. It's just such a weight off my shoulders.
And as for that backwards walker, that's me. I occasionally walk in reverse when PD causes a kind of foot cramp that stops me in my tracks. Walking backwards somehow helps me keep moving.
It's somehow a different way to activate the motor circuitry needed.
In 2014, my son was diagnosed with leukemia. He's fine now. My dad with Alzheimer's, and I
Okay, and on the left.
got Parkinson's. To try to preserve some normalcy, I told few. But eventually I realized it was a secret sapping energy best spent elsewhere.
I think the more people that come out and talk about it, more people are going to accept it.
Parkinson's is not the
The
end.
podcast for people with Parkinson's.
Dave Clark devotes his energy to a podcast
Walking for 9 hours nearly, which is a bit ridiculous, but slow.
I walked across England, coast to coast. I walked the length of Hadrian's Wall.
and fundraisers.
Very proud of that. I've raised over £500,000 for Parkinson's research.
Chiara Delmonico employs the grit she learned as a 12-year-old runner to exercise, which may slow progression of the disease.
It's windy, it's rainy, but I'm still going.
And so we all persevere, forge ahead, each of us in our own way. Peter Rosen, KSL 5 News.
Well, according to a recent study, it's now estimated 90,000 people in the U.S. are diagnosed with PD every year. That's 50% more than previously thought. Now, you and I both have known Peter for years
Right.
now. We had no idea until this story previewed. So
Right.
what
And,
our hearts go out to him.
We appreciate his candor and his vulnerability and for raising awareness on what is for sure a deeply personal issue for thousands of families.
Really inspirational story too. I mean,
I know.
so many examples of,
Right.
of people just overcoming and,
Yeah.
and moving on.
Amazing.
So,